Alright, welcome back everyone to another Tarkov related video, and I just want to say before we get into the nitty gritty of this, thank you for all the views. I really appreciate the amount of views and comments I got on that video. It means a lot to me, and I'm really happy to see that kind of stuff. You'll have to excuse the nose or the nasaliness. My allergies are super nuts right now, so I'm going to sound a little off today. So we're coming hot off the heels of my last video, which was a pretty polarized and very angry rant about the state of Tarkov at launch of the wipe and how it seemed to be just really unfair, in my opinion, in a lot of ways. It wasn't horrible, it was just a set of more of a few things that just seems like a really big deal, and they were a really big deal for like the first week and a half, I would say. And I'm happy to say that most of those problems are resolved and or at least reduced to make it feel less ridiculous, because it was pretty bad at launch from the things I was seeing in the YouTube videos I was seeing. So let's go ahead and dive into what they changed and why it's a positive thing. So first of all, one of the big issues I had with this new wipe was the keys, and the keys were just for some reason incredibly difficult to get in a lot of cases. They have since buffed filing cabinets specifically, where they can spawn all kinds of different keys for different maps, not just customs, and it's actually a very high yield for a lot of these items. If you're just scavving in and looting all of these filing cabinets like every single chance you get, you're bound to get something you need pretty damn quick. That was a major issue for me because it seemed nigh on impossible to find basic keys within the first week, and I was trying really hard to find some of those keys and just couldn't do it. And then there were people making videos talking about how some of these keys were going for marked keys as a barter for basic quest keys, and I didn't like that. Another thing that I talked about was how endurance is a weird stat to level, and someone left a very lengthy comment on how exactly that whole system works in leveling it. My issue isn't that you can only get a certain amount in raid, and I understand that it levels less quickly if you're over that wave threshold. I just think that it shouldn't be so backwards to level a stat that's so important to your survival. I also had a section in my rant video where I talked a lot about how the game seems to disrespect your time, and it doesn't seem to care about how much time or effort you're putting into things. And I read off a comment that was very brutal about that opinion. Now, while I still hold true to that to a very minor extent, I do think I was very polarized in the way that I explained that. I was coming off the heels of how the game currently functions, and I was watching a couple videos and I had a couple comments that kind of made me reevaluate how I saw the game for what it is. At some point, I had completely forgotten that they're leaving everything kind of open to get things tested, because, you know, it's a beta and whatnot, and then they're going to slowly start tightening the grip so it feels more like a survival game than anything else. And these changes with the ammunition, where all of the good ammunition is a lot harder to get, even just PS rounds for a 7.62 weapon for an SKS, or PS rounds for a 5.45 AK, even M855 for American style weapons like M4s and the MDR, you can't get those at Trader Level 1. And I think that was a very good change. I know there are a lot of people that don't agree with that, but that kind of shows the level of survival that they want. Fights last longer, it's more of a struggle to deal with certain things, and a lot of the armors are far less prominent. A lot of the really meta armors are far less prominent, which makes, in my opinion, the game feel a lot more refreshing. It's a new experience, and it feels a lot more about survival rather than who manages to get the first M61 round off into the other person's face. So with that whole perspective change, I still think there are a lot of ways that they can improve this system. I still think there are a lot of ways that Tarkov does not respect your time, but my biggest issues being the keys were ridiculous to get and the endurance being really weird. I can say that I'm a lot happier with it now, especially after the buffs and changes, and the changes to the ammunition and armor are super positive changes that will go a long way to make the early wipe feel longer. Some people seem to think that I want the game to be easier. That is simply false. I just think that the way they went about making some of these changes was purely an attempt to artificially increase the time it would take you to do basic things. Another positive change that I just remembered after writing down this whole script is they recently changed that scav weapons, the weapons you either pull off of scavs or pull off of your player's scav at the end of a raid, they start at half or lower than half durability, but they can be repaired up to, I believe, 90% durability, so they're a usable weapon. They're just going to be slightly less accurate because of that 10% loss in durability. Permanent loss in durability, mind you, but that was a very good change. I'm glad that scav weapons aren't completely completely useless outside of scav runs anymore. So with all of that said, I want to get into the thing that does still royally bother me right now. Something that really still, in my opinion, is a very baffling decision on BSG's part in terms of making a hardcore survival shooter. This change, I feel it being upped a little bit would have been a good idea, but they definitely went overkill. And this is the Scavs. The Scavs are still horrendously overpowered, horrendously aimbody, and unbelievably hard to kill sometimes, whether it be through desync or just them seemingly walking off rounds like they're nothing, sometimes even taking bullets to the face and still killing you. I'm sure you can find plenty of clips this wipe of people just hearing a scav yell and then they just fall over dead because that scav magically hits them in the face. I'm gonna show you a clip. It's gonna be kind of shrunk down, but essentially what happens is my friend just started playing Tarkov. He needed scav kills just for the basic quest for Prapper. He peeks a corner and the first 2 shots that scav fires are directly into his face, and that scav just saw him. So after he dies, I rotate around to a different spot where the scav apparently saw me and then proceeds to put 2 more shots directly into my head. Somehow my helmet ricocheted both shots. Oh shit! So I then rotate again, kill the guy that hit us both the first time, and get immediately head eyes by another random scav in the tiniest little crack that could possibly be seen through. These scavs are unbelievably overpowered with headshots. There is no reason that a basic unwashed looter who has absolutely no military training should be hitting me harder than the raiders and bosses do. And this isn't an isolated incident. I've been headshot from over 50 meters away with a scav that was using a 9mm pistol of some kind. He didn't hit me anywhere else, and he just shot me right in the face immediately for seemingly zero reason at all, with weapons that are half durability. It's just incredibly infuriating to have a scav with a half-broken weapon that doesn't even have a stock suddenly one-tap me from 50, 60, 70, 80 meters away, right in the face, and only the first shot would miss. It's ridiculous how strong these scavs are. All that being said, overall, I'm a lot happier with where the game is rather than where it was when the wipe very first started. They've made some positive changes. They've made some very polarizing changes that I think are for the better for the survival element that they're going for. But BSG, holy crap, please nerf these scavs. This is ridiculous.